Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on financial reporting. It's fantastic to see everybody here already. So what we'll do is, as we usually do, we'll wait a minute or two just to let everyone come into the webinar and join in. Fantastic to see that we already have a number of administrators and practitioners in the chat. So please, by all means, say hello. Make yourselves known, and we can have some introductions going on. So, hi, Christina. Hey, Trudy, Jenny, Kirsten, Louise, Harsh, Lindsay, Rochelle, Virginia, Martin, Helen. Hello. Fantastic to see everybody here already. Okay. So we'll just wait another 30 seconds. And then we'll dive into what will hopefully be an interesting webinar on financial reporting. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Eliza. You're right, Helen. It'd be fantastic if we could see each other's faces. But we just want to make sure the focus is on the calendar and on Halaxy. Hi, Geraldine. Fantastic. Okay. And can we get an idea of the types of practitioners that we currently have in this webinar at the moment? So got a lot of introductions coming through, which is fantastic. And if you can let us know more about what type of practice you're in and also where you're from, that's fantastic too. So we should be having people from all over the world today. Okay, we've got a whole mix of practitioners. Fantastic. Clinical psychologist Julianne, Rochelle, OT, Helen, bookkeeper, Teresa, speech and OT, Fiona, all the way from Perth, physio. Fantastic. Susan, great to have you here. Grief and loss counsellor, private practice. Kirsten, administrator for exercise physiology. And Lisa, that's great to see. So you're a multi-practitioner practice there, multidisciplinary practice. Psych, speech and OT. Hi, Matt, psychologist. Hi, Harsh. Hi, Liza. Hi, Nat. Okay. All right, team. Well, I think we've waited a little bit, but I don't want to make us wait all night. So how about we get into this? So what we're going to talk about today is financial reporting and understanding that for a lot of our practitioners at the moment, that's front of mind, not only just in Australia, but also all around the world. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk through, what are the types of tools that you can use within Halaxy? What are the opportunities and the options available to you that can help hopefully simplify a lot of your financial reporting obligations and give you a better idea as to the health of your practice? I'll flag up front, if anybody has any questions whatsoever, I'm joined here by my fantastic colleagues today, Kira, Gary, and Key. And if you have any questions, you'll see in the bottom right, at the moment, most of us are probably in the chat mode, but the bottom right of your webinar screen, or it should be on the bottom right, if not, it might be in another space. If you click the chat mode button, it turns into a Q&A section as well. So if you have any questions, make sure that you are sending them through the Q&A section and not in the chat. We'll leave the chat as a general conversation between all of us over the course of the webinar. But if there's any questions that you have, we're all here to answer them as well. And hopefully, I'll keep an eye on that too. So hopefully I can help answer questions live. So this is an interactive webinar. Hopefully it can be as helpful as possible. And what we'll do is we'll get into it. So let me just work through some things here and I'll just get everything set up. Fantastic. Okay. All right. Brilliant. So hopefully now everyone can see the calendar here. Just give me a thumbs up or a yes if you can see the calendar. That'd be fantastic. And I'll just keep an eye out on the chat. So can everyone see the calendar here, the Halaxy calendar on the screen? Fantastic. We should be able to see that right now, which is great. Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right. So today, what we're going to be talking about isn't so much accounting principles or how do you account for certain things within your practice according to accounting practices and standards. What this webinar is about is how do the tools within Halaxy help you meet those obligations and help you get an understanding as to where your practice is financially. So there's a bit of a distinction there. This is more about the how-to than the why in accounting. Hopefully everyone understands and appreciates that. But also, I hope that out of this webinar, you see the opportunities within Halaxy to simplify much of your practice. So then if you do have particular hairy accounting questions, you can always follow them up with an accountant, or if there's a technical question about how to actually extract some type of information after what you see today, you can also ask us as well. And we're available via support, by phone and email, 18 hours a day, Monday to Friday. So our team, all of us right now, or some of us right now, we're here and I'm talking, but we also have our moderators, but we're also live as well with support. So if you do have questions after this webinar, by all means, you can send us an email at community@halaxy.com, or you can call us in and we'll be able to take your call and answer any other questions you have there as well. But so essentially in Halaxy, all of your reporting tools, or the vast majority of your reporting tools, can actually be seen within your finances section here. So there's a finances section in your menu, and within it, you'll see that here are your expenses, invoices, and fees. And I apologize, it's actually your reports section. I was just having a look at the chat, so hopefully you can hear me right now. And just let me know if you can still hear, and that's fantastic. But what you want to be doing is going into your report section, and we're going to focus primarily on finance, the finance section for tonight's webinar. So I'm going to click this option here. Fantastic. And we can see that at the moment, there are actually no reports that have been produced. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Anna. That's great. So you're reconnected and can now hear. So if anyone does drop out or there are any challenges, try just refreshing the page or reconnecting, and hopefully that works too. So this is our financial reporting hub, essentially, within your Halaxy account. And some practitioners and some administrators and accountants might see this hub and they might say, well, it's a bit bland or bare. What do I do with it? Whereas others among us actually might have some reports here already, and they may be organized, they may not. So what we'll do first is I'll just talk you through, I'll give you a bit of an overview as to the range of reports that you can access within your Halaxy accounts. Then we'll dive into how you can actually use those reports, how you can look through and filter with those reports, and also just how easy it is to export any information that you generate within those reports. We'll then dive into some of the differences within the reports, because we appreciate that sometimes it can be confusing as to why would I run a certain report over another? What are the benefits of that, depending on what your goals are and the outcome that you're looking for. So to create a new report within your Halaxy account, you want to navigate to reports, click finance, and then in the top right of screen, you should be able to click new report. Okay, so we've just clicked new report here. And suddenly you'll see, as you will see among most of your report sections within your Halaxy account, you have a report type option that appears when you click new report. Now, these report types are listed here in this drop-down menu, and they're all related to your finance report section because we're in the finance section here. So at the moment, the preset is auto payments, and that's purely because it's alphabetical. So what we can do is we can actually select different types of reports by clicking this button here, and we can navigate down, and we can actually we can choose the type of report that we're looking for. Donna, if you're having any problems with connecting, just try to reconnect, and hopefully that helps out as well. Okay, fantastic. So if we have a look at the types of reports, what we can see is here there's a business activity statement, and that's relevant to a lot of individuals and practices at the moment over the coming month. This is an Australian-based report here, but it's not just Australian-based. So you can also run your credit card expiry reports, deposit reports as to deposits that you've accepted, expenses. You can actually track your Halaxy credit usage as well. And then we get into the meat of the reports, which are generally income reports, invoice reports. If you're an Australian-based practitioner, you'll see Medicare claims and NDIS bulk upload reports as well. So just bear in mind those are there. I'll touch on the Medicare one briefly in this conversation, but not too much. And then also we have profit and loss. I'll leave the simpler BAS because we actually have a BAS statement up here, which is a business activity statement, again, for Australian practitioners, that one. And then we have unpaid invoices and the unprocessed Medicare as well. So that's a bit of just a brief overview as to the types of reports, the report categories that there are. And we'll dive into a handful of those as well, just to demonstrate. But first of all, what we're going to have a look at is the income report. So we're going to look at the income report here. Donna, fantastic to have you back. That's brilliant. And so we're going to click the income report, and suddenly you'll see that there's a bunch of filters that have suddenly appeared, or these a number of fields that have suddenly appeared after selecting that type of report. Now, a question that is asked fairly often, or often enough, is around, well, do I need to fill in all of these fields here? And what are these fields for? So the first answer, or the answer to the first question is, you're not obligated to fill in any of these filters if you don't need to. If you do need to fill in a filter, after you click run, it'll highlight the filter you need to fill in. But generally, you don't need to fill in any of these filters to run a report. What these filters are here for are to provide you with the opportunity to be as granular as possible, or as granular as you'd like, when generating any one of these finance reports. And these filters will adapt depending on the report type that you select. So if we change report, we'll see here that the filters actually change as well. Because depending on the report, the information that will be outputted will be different as well. So the information that's displayed when you generate a report will be different. So just know that when you see this, these filters here, don't feel put off by it. Actually see it as an opportunity where you have the availability where you can determine the types of data that you want to extract. Now, for example, in this income report, we can select the payment date. Now, the payment date's relevant to us, especially if we're concerned about financial reporting season, because we can actually restrict the type of information to a certain time frame. And I'm going to do that just for example's sake, for the last year up to yesterday. So I'm just going to navigate back a year. You'll see 2020 will turn into 2019. So I can just navigate back an entire year, and I'm going to select the 1st of July. So now any information that's generated in this report will start from the 1st of July, and then I'll make the next date up to the 30th of June. So you can see the 30th is here. Just to be extra clear, I'll navigate back 1 month, and we can see the 30th is now here. So I'll click that. So now we have a full year that we're going to generate an income report for. Now, if you're in a practice, and we had an example just earlier where we had there's an individual here with a multidisciplinary practice, and Lisa, you had that practice there. So if you're looking to generate a report for particular practitioners or a handful of practitioners, you can do that by selecting their names here. So if we select this name and then that name, we're going to generate a report that's only related to these particular individuals, these particular practitioners. In this case, I'm going to leave that blank because we want to see the performance in terms of income for our practice across all practitioners. Now, bear in mind, just like how you can narrow in on a particular practitioner or group of practitioners, you can also do it by locations. So you can also select any number of locations that you may have. And for example, if you're operating across 2 different physical locations, well, you could add them in here. Or if you only want to identify one of those locations, you can just add one. If for whatever reason you might have set up an online location, so you might have actually created a separate location earlier on, well, and you want to include that in your finances, you can also select it from here as well. So we've gone through the way that you can narrow in on the type of practitioner, the type of location, but then there's also flexibility in terms of determining the reporting from the type of individual or party that's paying. So in this instance here, we're going to select all, but just remember you can select patient and you can type in the patient's name. So if you're looking to generate a report for a particular patient over the past year, then you'd select patient and then you can select their name there and start typing, and then you'll see, we'll see if there we go. So we could select the patient just like that here. I'm going to click back into it to reset it. So I can show you organization as well. So as soon as we move to organization, did you see this area here? This payer actually changed. So patient to organization. And now we can search for an organization. Again, I'm going to leave this as all because we want to see all potential payers here. So the next category that we can move into is filter by. So we have different ways you can actually filter the report type in terms of what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a particular fee, you can search for that fee here and you can select the fee and any number of fees, just like how I am. Susan, sorry, there's nowhere that I'm aware of at the moment where you could make the screen necessarily bigger, but I'll have a look to see if we can do anything for you there. It might be that the webcam's in a thumbnail. I'll try and increase that thumbnail for you as well, but hopefully you can make the screen larger too. But we'll get back into it here. So, and at worst case, hopefully you can get the general idea and the general flow so you can see what the opportunities are for you with financial reporting. So we can create a report that narrows in or has any number of fees that we're filtering by. We can also change the invoice status from active to issued to deleted and add any number of those as well. And also fee categories. If you have added fee categories, you can also isolate those within your report. Now, for some practitioners or some practices, you may have an instance where you need to provide a report, a financial report to an accountant or and the accountants among us as well, but you'd rather not display patient names. So you can actually change that. You can hide patient names by selecting hide patient names here. And Mitch, thank you very much. So if you do want the screen to be larger, by all means, you can minimize the chat and that will work. So thank you for that suggestion, Mitch, and thank you for asking Susan as well. And you can do that by clicking the 3 red dots on the right. You can also make it slightly larger, and that will make the chat disappear. Okay, so we're going to display patient names. I'll flag that all of the information you see here, it's all fake. There's nothing real in this information. So there's no risk of any real information going out in that sense. So just know when you're seeing names, it's all made up. It's not real. So just test information that we use. And then also you can narrow in on the types of funders that you may have within your practice. So essentially, everybody, I've walked through the filters and I realize this can be somewhat, if not very dry. And I appreciate your interest and bearing with us bearing with me whilst I'm talking through the finance report filters. But it's really important that you understand that you can use them as much as you like or as little as you like. And there's a great level of functionality in here. Right. So the thing that we've been waiting for probably for a moment is actually running the report. So Michael, stop talking and just run the report. Well, your wishes are being answered and I'm going to click run report here. And just like that, the report has been run. So immediately we'll see the filter categories that we had. Many of them actually appear as our column headings within our reports. And I'm just going to scroll down. And now we can see a whole range of information that's related to income, because this was the income report that we ran. And the way you can determine that is you can have a look up the top left and we can see income report is highlighted. There's a heading there. The date range is highlighted as well. We have a list of totals, so that can be helpful as a quick reference. And then we have line by line itemization of the income report underneath their respective headings. And if I scroll down, we can also see that those lines are totaled as well. Now, a question that's been asked and was asked in our survey prior that some practitioners did answer, so thank you very much for that, and administrators answer, was what's the difference between the income report and the invoice report? We'll go into the invoice report as well, but in terms of the income report, what you're filtering for on the dates here are the dates when you received payment. So that's the income report is tracking when you've received payment, and the payment date, the way that Halaxy determines the payment date is the only way it can determine the payment date is the date that you accept the payment on the invoice. So when you click mark as paid or you process an electronic payment, that's considered the date when payment was accepted. Now, if that payment takes a day or it might take 2 days to transfer, there's no way of Halaxy knowing that information. You can always update your invoice, but once it's successfully processed, what Halaxy does is it takes that as the date of payment. Fantastic. And it's brilliant to see everybody helping each other as well. Louise, thank you for that great suggestion about zooming in on your browser screen as well, so you can see more information on the screen. Thank you for helping each other out. That's fantastic. So hopefully that's helped clarify a little bit in terms of the income report. I'll talk more about the invoice report very shortly. But on the income report, when we filter for those dates, we're filtering for any payments that have been accepted from your practice. Now, let's say, because we were talking about filters before and it was rather exciting, or at least I was excited by talking about it, that let's say you want to adjust some of your filters. You look at this report and you say, actually, I've got an idea now, and now I want to go into more detail into a particular practitioner. I want to adjust the date, or I want to change the fee or anything like that. Or you can actually, instead of going back to new report, you can edit the current report by clicking the pencil icon, the edit icon in the top right. And Philip, you asked, can I have an income report based on categories rather than on the basis of every individual payment? Yes, you can. So one of the filters is for fee category. So this is probably a good opportunity just to be able to show you this as well. So we can click the filter icon, so the pencil icon, the edit icon, click that. And now what we've seen and what we're looking at are those same filters we had before, but instead they're in this window here in front of our report, and we can actually adjust our report on the fly. So Philip, you asked about the categories. So if you did want to select certain fee categories, you can just like this. So we can then adjust these fee categories here. And by doing so, we can then run the report. Now, I'm not sure if there's any of these fee categories here. We'll find out. Oh, there were. That's fantastic. And we can see those fee categories that we filtered for underneath this column are now showing. So it's as easy as that. That's how straightforward reviewing your income payment, your income reports are. And if we scroll down, if you like the filters you have, you can actually save your report. Now, what does saving your report do? So saving your report means that you're saving the filter setup. So those filters that we have up here, you're saving the settings in these filters. And why is there why am I making note of that? Well, it's because if you added an invoice after saving a report that fits within the filters you've established, when you next go into this report, it actually pulls in that information for you automatically. So you don't need to run a new report every time. If you've saved it, you can just click your saved report. And if the criteria within your current Halaxy account matches that information, you can pull it straight in. It will pull itself straight in. So that's helpful in terms of just making sure that you're reconciling. You don't need to focus as much on reconciling because it's already in there, provided you can be confident. If those filters are set the way you want them to be, then that information will be in there. So to do that, we can click Save. We can add a report title, so it's helpful to do that. So I'm going to say Income Report 4, and I'll add in the date range just so we're aware. So Income Report 4. And you can add a description. It's optional. Yeah, and click Save. Fantastic. And we are also, Cassandra, we are, as Kira mentioned, we are recording this webinar, and everyone who has registered for this webinar will receive the recording within the next 24 hours. So you'll have that as well. And it includes the chat. So if you saw a question within the conversation or an answer within the conversation you want to come back to, you can also do that within the recording too. So now what we've done is we've actually saved this income report, and you'll notice that now there's a delete report option. So if you do find that you made a mistake that you don't want to edit in the filters, you just want to remove the report completely, you can click delete report. We're not going to do that. We're going to navigate back to finances, and we're going to have a look at that screen that was originally somewhat bare, and we're going to see if there's anything listed there now. And what do you know? There is. So we can now see that income report. There's a date when it was created, there's a time, there's a title and the description. So we can click into it in one click. We don't need to reset the filters or anything. We just click into it and everything is ready to go there. And if we have a look at the filters, we can see that those filters are still preserved. They're still saved. Now, there's nothing stopping you from running another income report, any number of income reports, or any type of financial report. Because you can run as many as you like in as many ways as you like. There's no limit to those. No problem, Cassandra. Thank you for your question as well. And Mitch asked if there's a way to add a logo to a report at the moment. There isn't a way to add a particular logo, but what you can do, and this leads probably to the next stage anyway, naturally, and we'll dive into more reports in a little bit, but we've talked about the types of reports to some degree. We've talked about filtering to a deep degree. Now we'll talk about exporting reports. And this will be a little bit quicker, I'll flag as well. So if you're looking to use the data that you have within here, you have a couple of options available to you. You could either print the report itself, you could export the report into an Excel spreadsheet, or any other type of program like OpenOffice that could use the CSV format. Or you could actually integrate with different accounting software providers, so Xero, Reckon, or QuickBooks, which we'll touch on towards the end of this webinar too. So you could click print. So how do we print a report? Well, we could click print this report here, and that will generate a PDF for you, which you can then save or you could print. Also, if you're looking to add in, say, a logo, this is where the export function could help you as well. So you could export your report. Now, this could fit a range of reasons. One would be if you want a hard copy on your computer of your reports, your financial reporting over a period of time, you can export them into easy-to-use CSV files, so Excel files. You could also, once you've downloaded the report, just by clicking this button, you can see it starts to download it here. Or at the bottom of your screen, you might not be able to see that at the moment, but do trust me, when you do click it, you'll see your report immediately exports. You could then reformat that. So if you did want to add in a different type of header and that type of thing, you could do that there. So in terms of, Kezia, you asked, do the reports become static once it's been saved, or does it change if or when you go back in and edit things? So the answer is it's dynamic. and they'll update automatically as you use Halaxy. So what does that mean in layman's terms? Well, what that means is what you're saving is the filter settings. So the next time you go into your report, if there's new materials, there's new invoices or new financial information or appointments or anything related to that report that fits the criteria that you set previously, it will then be pulled into that report as well. So there is the chance, or what will happen is if you add in an invoice that fits the time frame of a report that you've already saved, so you add in the invoice after saving that report, the next time you go into that report, you'll actually see that invoice in that report as well. So it updates live for you the next time you go into the report, because the thing that you're saving are the filter settings. And that's the key concept here. You're saving the filter settings, and then every time you click into the report, it's running that filter across your live Halaxy database. So have the confidence that when you do save a report and then you run it, you're getting the most up-to-date information within your Halaxy account. So hopefully we've covered off just a little bit there in terms of printing, exporting. We've obviously talked about filtering. We've run through highlighting some of the reports. What I'll go into now is a discussion about invoice reports in particular. And then I'll show and we'll walk through what do the P&L reports look like, and for Australians, what are the BAS statements, the business activity statements look like as well. So let's now have a look at the invoice report, and the correlation or the contrast we're going to draw is between the income and the invoice report, because that seems to be the question that a lot of practitioners tend to have, and I should say practices as well, because we have a number of very capable practice administrators, and for today also a number of accountants as well, which is brilliant to see everybody here. So let's now go into the invoice reports, because this tends to be the question. So what we'll do is we'll navigate back a year. So I'm just going to click it down here and going to go to the 1st of July. Here we go. Click the wrong one. We'll go back. August, there we go. 1st of July. And we're now back in 2020. I'm going to click the 30th of June. So 30th of June, there we go, one whole year. This is now the invoice report. And again, there's a number of filters here. Filter as much or as little as you like. We're not going to filter anything right now, but you can if there's particular information you're looking for, financial information you're looking for, or a particular type of invoice or fee category, you can do that here. But let's just click run. All right, fantastic. And we saw how quick that was. And immediately, again, we can see this is an invoice report because it says invoice report in the top left. And we can also see the date range here in the top left as well. Sorry, that highlighted the right in the top left. And also there's the total section. So it's similar to what we saw. There's a breakdown of the type of payment methods that you've recorded against your invoices. But the big difference between income reports in Halaxy and invoice reports in Halaxy is the way that the dates are handled and the type of information they rely on. So an income report, as we discussed, what that's doing is it's tracking all of your payments and the dates when they were received. So when you run an income report, you'll see when you set the date range, that's the date range when payments were received. And what do I mean and what's defined as payments received? In Halaxy, it's defined as the date that payment is said to have been received on the invoice. Bearing in mind that if you have a Medicare transfer, a claim, or a payment processing that's going on, whether it's in Halaxy or through Halaxy or through a terminal or otherwise, the date that is on your invoice in terms of the date that was processed is the date that will appear under the income report. Now, that's great, but we're on the invoice report, Michael. So what's the difference here? Well, the difference is the date range that we set being the 1st of July 2019 to the 30th of June 2020. These are the dates of when our invoices were created. And we can see that here because the dates are now listed underneath here, this column on the left. But importantly, suddenly we have this large unpaid section. Sorry, I highlighted the whole page there. So we can see this unpaid section is here. Now, that didn't appear as much within our income report because it also accepted partly paid. So when there was partly paid invoices, it would show. But the reason why it's so large is because this is including our unpaid invoices. And we can see that because our invoices have not yet paid as their statuses. And there are outstanding balances that are also highlighted as well. So I'll go into some other reports that we can look at too for outstanding payments. But this is a really good report. If you're looking for invoices that are currently unpaid and outstanding, you can run an invoice report and you can immediately see what's not being paid. Now, if you want to get into more detail about what's not being paid, you can click the filter icon. And we click the filter icon, which is the edit icon, essentially. And now we can filter this report. Now, sometimes it'll take a little while because it's filtering through or it's preparing the information across a whole range of reports that you might have, a whole range of invoices you might have within your practice over a period of time. But what we can do, sorry, I'll just unclick out of that there. I'm just going to select payer is fee. And what should we look at here? So I'm going to have a look at our invoice status as active. So I just want to see active invoice statuses, just for an example. We'll click run. And now we can see, we can see anyway, but essentially what we can see here is the list. And this is what I want to highlight. So sorry, that wasn't very helpful in that point. But just know that you do have a range of options where you can filter. And if you want to manipulate the report any further, you can always export the report as a CSV. And then you can filter it in any number of ways across all of these columns, all these headings, as you would for any other type of Excel or similar file. So the important distinction is one to do with dates and one to do with payment or not payment. So income reports, what's that recording? That's recording the payments, the dates when they were recorded against your invoices. What's an invoice report recording? The dates when the invoices were created, regardless as to the payment status on those invoices. So let's have a look. We've got a couple of questions coming in here. I'm just going to have a look through. Let's have a look. So I find, let's see here. How does Halaxy, so Helen, you asked, does Halaxy allocate an invoice number when a booking is made? So it does, but it only does when you add a fee. So provided you add a fee to your appointment, Halaxy then does everything about generating the invoice in the background. So it'll generate that invoice for you. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of other finance reports. And then what we'll do is we'll touch on the concept of accounting integrations as well. So let's navigate through. What I did say was we're going to have a look at the BAS activity statement. So I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of these reports and talk through them. And let's have a look. So here you can see if you're an Australian practitioner, if you're not, you can tune out for the next 30 seconds. But I'll make this brief. But you can actually generate your BAS statements within Halaxy. Now, if you need to adjust them, that's fine. You can always export them again, and you can adjust these columns here in an Excel format. But this is the information from your Halaxy regarding your business activity statement for GST purposes over the period of time that you set. So here you can set the payment dates, and that's how you can determine the quarter or the monthly reporting that you're required to do. Let's go back. I'm now going to demonstrate the P&L statement. So let's have a look at this. And then we'll go into, from P&L, we'll have a look at unpaid invoices, and then we'll go to expenses as well. And I'll talk a little bit about how do you account for products that you've purchased and how do you account for the inventory, but also Halaxy credit usage as well. So let's have a look at our profit and loss statement. And I'm going to select the date again because we don't want all the information from forever. We just want the last year. So that's 30th of June. And I'm going to click run. Now, immediately, we have our profit and loss report. Again, titles up the top left, totals on the top right. And then if we scroll down, we can see the income is listed here. We have the list of practitioners against which that income is recorded. We have the date when it was accepted. We have the invoice number here. Now, if you see a date that's different there, that's only because the payment was likely received within this period as income. But then we also have our list of expenses too. So you can generate your profit and loss report within your Halaxy account. We've excluded tax in this one. And this is where you can review it. You can then export it if you need to. And essentially, that's the profit and loss report. Now, let's go into, I did mention we'll just quickly highlight, so I'm generating a new report, unpaid invoices, because I don't feel like I fully explained that before. So I'm just going to take us through unpaid invoices very briefly. And then we'll talk more about accounting for expenses and products and stock. So let's run this report. It's an unpaid invoices report just to show you what it looks like. And now we can see this is an unpaid invoice report. And on the right, you can actually see that all of these reports here are not yet paid. There is a possibility you might have partially paid. So there might be some invoices that haven't been fully paid, as we have here, partially paid. So if there's any invoice that you have an outstanding amount on, this is where this is a report that you can run to consolidate those outstanding payments that you are owed as well. So let's go into expenses, and we'll have a look at expenses here. And we just had a question. So Harsh, just previously, I think you might have asked that you find running regular reports doesn't change dates. It runs and saves a new report as us, but how do we change those date ranges? Well, you can change those date ranges when you can edit the date range by clicking the pencil icon at the top right-hand side of the screen. So Tim, hopefully I'm answering Harsh as well, but let us know if not. You can always change the date ranges in the top right by clicking the filter icon. And that's how you can actually adjust your report date ranges. Okay, so let's have a look at expenses. If you have any other questions, put them up on the channel and we'll try and answer them as best we can as well. So let's have a look at the expenses report. Just change the date back to back a year. Here we go. And you'll see under here, we actually have the option to add some categories as well, but I'm just going to click run. Fantastic. Okay, sorry about this. There we go. Brilliant. Hopefully you can still see the screen. And now we can see that actually in this case, we've got one expense on our records here, which is BPay payment. Now, this is the report where you want to run, where you can see the different types of expenses that are occurring within your account. I'll see whether if I change this date range, we'll see if we can get just some more information for you. So I can leave that blank. So it's going to start from the start when this account was created up to the 30th of June. And now we can see there's a whole number of range. There's a whole lot more information. And you can see your Halaxy auto payments are tracked in this expenses report. We can see equipment is tracked. We entered in some rent detail as well. And we can actually see for equipment, the type of the practitioner where that was against as well. So fantastic. Now, this is the expense report. Now, as you can see, we have equipment here, we have rent. Let's talk a little bit about how you can enter in, and I'll focus particularly on products, because that was a question we had before. How you can enter products into your Halaxy account, how you can track your inventory with those products, and then how the expenses for purchasing those products appears within here. So anytime you generate a product with a cost associated, it will appear within your expenses report, and it'll have the date attached when you purchased it. Now, where can you add them? Well, finances fees, we'll click that. And what I'll do is I'll get to integrations just after this as well. Now we go to finances fees, we can select product. And here, this is where we can add products. So you can add the products you may have within your practice here. You can also add a category. So if we can make up a category, so product, say tape. We can give it a code. You can set it as active or archived, and then also you can set your opening stock balance. So here you can track stock, the cost, say is $50. We'll say the tax is included there, and click save. So now immediately we've added tape. It is a product, and we've got it here in terms of on our screen. So that can now be tracked within your expenses as well for when you're making purchases. And let's have a look. So what I'm going to show you actually is this expense category. I think that might be helpful. Just here, and I'll navigate the date. If we can just make that work there. While I'm doing that, I might not have saved this correctly. There we go, whole practice. So essentially, when you're adding in the information, sorry, I can't just demonstrate to you right now. I think I just lost myself, but this is where you can keep track of your expenses too. So you can either run an expenses report, or you can actually go to the expense option under finances expenses and click export here. So we've talked about reports. We've talked about filtering. We've talked about saving and exporting those reports. What I'm going to highlight now is, because we're getting towards the end of the webinar, is accounting integrations. So this is another question that we had prior to running this financial reporting webinar. Now, with Halaxy, I'm just going to navigate to the finance report just to have this as a screen. It's nicer to see. It's more relevant to now. But in Halaxy, we offer the ability to integrate with a number of different accounting packages. And those accounting packages are Xero, Reckon, or QuickBooks. So in terms of how do you integrate with them? Well, first of all, you need an account. You need to have an account already with Xero, Reckon, or QuickBooks. And once you have an account, well, then you can connect that account with your Halaxy practice fairly simply. So let's do it. Well, I'll demonstrate where you can do it, but you'll need your own account to do so. So click Settings, and from here, click Payments. And from Payments, scroll down to the bottom of your screen, and you'll see there's an accounting option, and you can add new. So you can click Add New here, and you'll see there's an option. There's the three options, which is Connect to Xero, Connect to Reckon, or Connect to QuickBooks. Now, I'm going to click Connect to Xero. Hopefully, everyone can see what the page is as an example, but each of these other two pages, Reckon and QuickBooks, it's equivalently the same page. It's essentially a login screen, but I'll click this. We'll see if we can see it here. There we go. So provided you have an account with Xero, in this instance, you can actually connect your account by logging in through the Xero portal. And then once you click login, they'll take you back to your Halaxy profile, and you'll see that your accounting software is now connected within your Halaxy account. Just some things to flag as well. Prior to connecting, what I recommend doing, because there's a bit of detail in terms of how this works. It's simple to set up, but there's a bit of detail there. Prior to adding your accounting software, just scroll up and just click the question mark here in the top right of screen. And thank you, Helen. That's really kind of you mentioning that. But so the top right of screen, you can click the help section. And what I recommend doing is typing in accounting integrations. And you can read more about and in greater detail about the types of integrations you can make with your financial accounting within your Halaxy account, and also the level of detail that it goes into. So just to give you a bit of an overview from a high level, essentially what an integration with your accounting software means in Halaxy is it's one directional. So it goes from Halaxy. Halaxy sends the information to your accounting software. Your accounting software can't communicate back to Halaxy because the way Halaxy handles invoices is at quite a complicated level to hopefully simplify things for you when you run your practice. But when you update your invoices as paid, you can choose prior to adding when you add an integration, whether you want your draft invoices, so your unpaid invoices, to be sent to your accounting software, or whether you just want your paid invoices to be sent to your accounting software. We tend to recommend just sending your paid invoices. It's a cleaner connection. It's simpler to use. And it makes more conceptual sense when you're trying to look back and work out what's going on, because you can always run that unpaid invoices report in your Halaxy as well. But that's just flagging just a couple of things ahead of time. But make full use of the question mark up here, the help section. Once you've read through accounting integrations in the search area, and if you're still a bit hesitant or you have some questions remaining, you can always email us at community@halaxy.com, or you can call us in as well. Now, Juliet asks, is there a Halaxy fee to integrate Xero or QuickBooks? We don't charge anything for these integrations. You will likely be charged by Xero or QuickBooks or Reckon. They have their own charges for their own software. We don't charge for the integration. So if you have an account with those providers already, you can connect your Halaxy to it, and it's at zero cost from Halaxy's end. The providers shouldn't charge you for connecting with us from that perspective either, beyond their normal charges. So that's it's effectively free. It is free from Halaxy's perspective, so you can connect in as you like. And everything I've demonstrated today does come at no cost in Halaxy. Now, Halaxy, well, we charge when we help you process payments by accepting credit card details. You can do that through Halaxy. And other services like Medicare and TAC and WorkCover for those that are aware of those types of services as well, and SMSs as well. So everybody, I see that we're nearly towards the end of this hour right now. Thank you, Helen. So you mentioned that Xero don't charge anything extra. Fantastic. So you can see that there's been a lot of questions today. And if there is any that are still unresolved, I'm just trying to look through just to check if we do have any. But if there are any unresolved, do feel comfortable emailing us in at community@halaxy.com. We're always happy to answer, or giving us a call. And we're available Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. until 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, there's equivalent times depending if you're in Ireland, depending if you're in the UK, South Africa, New Zealand, US, and elsewhere, with practitioners from all over right now. And Jody, we had this question just earlier, but the webinar has been recorded. So you'll receive a link in the next 24 hours with that in your inbox as well. And what I'll flag in addition to our discussion today is, if you are interested in joining future webinars and you haven't already, there's an option where you can actually click register for future webinars. And if you click that option, you'll be updated automatically by email when new webinars are occurring as well. So then you can know that you'll never miss out. But hopefully today has been somewhat helpful. We've gone through essentially walking through how do we generate reports. We've talked about creating the report, filtering, exporting reports, the difference between invoice and income reports in particular, and then integrating with the different accounting packages. If you do want more information just about the types of reports in Halaxy, click this help icon again, and you can type in types of reports or type of report. And if you click that, you'll actually see an entire list of our reports and a brief summary as to what you can and can't do within those reports as well. So everybody, thank you very much for your participation today. Realize finance sometimes isn't the most colourful type of conversation. I'm sure there's a handful of us that really enjoy it in this chat. But hopefully I've been able to provide, and we've been able to provide, some clarity today around the types of opportunities that present themselves for you when using your Halaxy practice account. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Martin. Thanks, Louise. Thanks, Therese, Donna. Philip, thank you for your questions as well, and Trudy. Really appreciate everybody's participation, because that's what makes these webinars fun for all of us to do. And we want to help you in your success in your practice as much as possible, and clarify some of those questions that might have been nagging at you for some time. Now, if there are any other questions that you have, I'm sorry we haven't been able to address them right now, but by all means, email us in or give us a call, and we'll handle those questions for you as well. Provided they're not too accounting specific. If you need an accountant, I recommend getting an accountant. But if you're wondering how to generate a report or connect in a certain accounting integration, reach out to us and we're here to help. So thank you very much, everybody. We're going to end the webinar a little bit early today, because I feel like we've gone through quite a lot, and there is the avenue where you can ask further questions if you like as well. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Till the next one. Thank you.